We're looking at a composer named Alexander Reinagle today. He's one of the few classical composers from America. And most of the classical composers that we talk about are European. We have Mozart, Haydn, those guys. Reinagle was influenced by them and actually knew them, but he lived here in America. And he was contemporaries with George Washington. He actually taught some of Washington's family members piano lessons. He wrote music for their events, and they were in touch with each other. So I think it's really interesting to look at history and think about real people hearing this music, maybe the real places and people that experienced it. So here's a piece by Reinagle. I'll play it for you, and then we can talk about a few building blocks of this piece. It's Allegro in C. That's it. It's short, it's just pleasant and bright, C major type of music. It's called Allegro because of the quick tempo, but it also kind of reminds me of a gavotte, if you've heard of this type of dance. A gavotte is in 2/4 or 4/4, and it has kind of this bright feel to it. So thinking back to these classical styles, this is what we have happening in America too. So let's talk about how to play this piece a little bit. It stays in one hand position, although the hands are not matching where they are on the keys. We need both thumbs on Cs, left hand thumb on middle C, right hand thumb on treble C, higher than that. So they're one octave apart, and then the other fingers are just, placed from there. There are no sharps or flats. This is totally white keys, C major. And find that C, that's where we keep returning to. That's our tonic home note. It's where the piece begins and ends. I've said this before, but make sure that your thumb position is okay, kind of tall, curved, supporting the rest of your hand. We really don't want that thumb to fall, and end up flat and clunky. So once your thumbs are on C and you've got your other fingers ready, you could even play a little warm up there if you'd like to, just to hear the notes and get everything set. The right hand is the melody, and it involves some quarter notes and eighth notes, and it involves a lot of repetition. Let's walk through it slowly together. We have C to start, steps up. So right away from measure 1 to 2, make sure you're finding that skip. So we have step first, and then a skip up. And from there, just stepping up. But I wanted to mention the rhythm. Here's a mistake that I see beginners doing all the time, and it is that they just start playing without first setting the beat or setting the tempo or feeling the beat or thinking about it at all. They just start with the first note and then hope that it's going to work out. You'll see professionals do this a lot differently, which is they get ready and they start thinking of the pulse, the tempo, before they even begin. So in your mind, before you start, I want you to try thinking 1, 2, 1, 2, or even think the first couple measures of rhythm, which would go like this: 1, 2, 1, and 2, and. Okay, don't leave that to chance. Be ready so that you can be successful. So at the top, we're going to start counting. We're going to try the right hand. Ready, start. 1, 2, 1, 2. Steps up. There's a little lift right here at the end of the slur. Let's do that one more time. Count first. 2, 1, 2, 1. Steps up and half note lift. Here's a skip. Here's a scale. Turns back down. Okay? There's something we run into in music called question and answer phrases. I'll just point that out because it's a great example. The first 4 measures create sort of a question sound. Listen to how this part ends. Stepping up, that would be the question mark moment. It's not finished. We can't stop the piece there. Then the second phrase balances that or answers it. back to C. Do you hear how that sounds more complete? Kind of like, you know, the end of the sentence, the answer. One other thing that I can point out for you is the rhythm of both of those phrases is the same. You have 2 quarter notes, 4/8 notes, quarter, quarter, half note at the end. The rhythm is the same, but the contour of notes is what affects that question and answer formula. So again, from the top, we've got first 4 measures. Watch the rhythm on those. Question, lift. Here's the answer. Steps to C. Okay. Next 8 bars are the same as what we just did. The only difference here is that we need a quieter volume. We started out loud, or at least it's marked loud. I could have shown that better, but we'll play it loud. And then the second part here is quiet. We create an echo. So we still play to the bottom of the keys, okay? But we just don't need a lot of extra motion or energy or force getting into that. Just enough to hit the bottom of the key. And again, the answer phrase, and we've got that. There's one other part that I can teach you. We're near the end of the piece. We have a 2 measure unit that's repeated, but each time with a louder dynamic level. This would be great for you to practice. It starts out quietly, medium, and the third statement is forte. Steps down, steps down. If you've learned about 2-note slurs, we can apply that right here at the end. The last 2 measures, down, up, down, up. Do you know where we've seen that before? Mozart, you know, and the other classical names that we've mentioned, probably Beethoven too, they use that technique. And so it's happening in this simple piece. Down, up, down, up. When you do a 2-note slur the right way, the result is that the first note is stronger than the second. And it comes out with this sort of graceful or lilting quality. So check on that. If you're doing it wrong, it might sound like this. You know, it's there, but it's just a little bit flat. Let's talk about left hand for a moment, and then I want to look at the overall form with you. The left hand, remember, thumb is on middle C. It's all half notes, except for one spot, mostly half notes, and it covers only a few notes. Starts on middle C like this. Half note, 2 beats, B right next door, back to C, skipping to A, G, and back to C. So really, really basic. You can find those notes. Make sure that you're still feeling the beat and counting through them. The difference that I mentioned is right at the end. Let's play the last 4 bars. B, C, B, C, G. That's the only spot where you've got quarter notes. So left hand, just kind of pause and look through that, but it only uses 4 notes, mostly half notes. Pretty simple, okay? When you play both hands together, that's what we're looking for. So it's coordinated, but the left hand is really not doing much at all. I'd keep it quiet, keep it simple. I'm not using pedal at all. So it's really about finding the rhythm of the right hand and then just kind of polishing that up. One last thing I can share with you is the form of this piece. We've got the first 8 bars and then a double bar line. We've got the second half of the piece and then instructions that say D, C, al fine. You might have seen this before, but maybe not. DC stands for da capo, which means go back to the beginning. The capo is like the top or the head or the cap. So that's the instruction that we're going to restart the piece. Al fine means that we play through until we see that word fine, which means finish or the ending. And that happens at the double bar line I mentioned, around measure 8. So one more time, we play through the whole piece. We get that instruction at the end to start it again, but end at the word fine. So when we put that together, we do end up with sort of an A-B-A structure. This piece is simple enough to get into as a beginner, but there's enough there to work on with dynamics and slurs and technique and patterns in your fingers, so it's a great one to stick with, and it's an American composer.